Greetings, Cosmos, and welcome back to Super Metroid. Today I'm going to explore the no longer haunted, no longer ghostly ship, the wrecked ship. There we go. I'm hoping to find I'm hoping to find the gravity suit, so that my underwater movement is just like my not underwater movement. So yeah, my first objective is up. Is there something over here? It's funny, the X-ray visor is almost, but not quite redundant with power bombs. Since most but not all the things that you'd want to see with the X-ray visor can be revealed with the power bombs. But see, there's the thing. Most, but not all. Alright. So, first thing I'm gonna do up here is, this room is so annoying to me because it is one of those rooms where you have to kill all the enemies before the doors will start being opened. And yeah, it's one thing if you're going from one end to the other, but the first time here, you start in the middle, and there's a non-zero chance that you'll start in the middle in the future too. So that means that if you want to go to the right, you need to first go all the way to the left and then all the way back. You only have to do it the first time you open any given door, so just opening all the doors the first time you get the chance. This incidentally is why I started doing that. Oh hey, look at this. I think this is important for something, but I can't remember what. Game balance is a funny thing. Like, one thing can just tip the entire balance of a game. Well, that didn't go how I would have wanted it to. Anyway, game balance is a strange monster. So, when I was helping to run a LARP, we had a concept, a game mechanic. It was armor. It required you to physically wear something that looked like it could be armor. This was not cheap, like in terms of real-world cash, so the players who could afford it did. Now, the way this game worked was if an attack or spell struck you in the head or torso, it killed you, unless you had armor. So, imagine being able to take up to, I forget how powerful we made armor at its height, like 3 or 4 extra hits to the head and or torso when fighting players who were newer and or simply couldn't afford. Really? These exist out here for no real reason, huh? I have vague memories of one of these leading to a power-up of some kind, but I'm starting to think that maybe that power-up isn't worth it. Anyway, yeah. So, armor. Had the effect of making it so the players who could afford it, which, oh yeah, this did lead to a power. No, come back! No. Okay, I did get it. Okay. It had the effect of making players with more money, quote unquote, better at the game than players who had less. So, there are a couple of solutions to this problem, one of which is make armor less powerful. Like, just directly make it less powerful. which is something that we eventually did because it oof. Come on, Brain. Because it also proved impossible. Like if you got hit in the hand or in an arm or a leg, you lost the use of that limb for the purposes of the game until you were healed, and so you could wear armor on those segments too. Turns out that asking people to keep track of 5 different numbers that are all rapidly going down at the same time, nothing even the most experienced players could do. Ow. So we did make armor less powerful using that as a justification, so armor instead of protecting your whole body. This segment seems so weird to me. I mean, look at this. Anyway, like, instead of protecting your whole body separately, it was just a flat bonus that made you harder to kill. You had to be hit X number of times before you could be killed. But anyway, that also didn't entirely solve the problem. But one of the options we looked at was just making an ability that let you do more damage. Now, with players who weren't wearing armor, that did nothing to them. But with players who were wearing armor, it halved the value of their armor. And if they were, well, halved isn't quite the right word. The ability doubled your damage output. Normally your damage output with a weapon is 1, and so having 1 point of armor means that you're protected from 1 hit. So what this did was, okay, hold on, time to shine, Spark. Yay! I think that's 3 reserve tanks and all the ones I know how to get. Anyway, so what this did was it still rewarded players for being able to afford more armor, since getting the full 4, or for being able to afford to buy heavier stuff, because getting the full 4 points of armor meant that you could still take extra hits, whereas the players who couldn't actually afford the expensive stuff but still have some cheaper stuff, well, they were the opposite of rewarded for that now. They were actually punished for that because the heavier stuff also made it harder to move around. Well, not harder to move around. It affected their ability to run or whatever, keep up a high level activity for a long period of time. And if you were wearing 1 point armor, it offered no protection from anyone who had this ability, because it let them do 2 points of damage, so that would hit your armor and your torso. So that was... Why am I doing this bad? So that was... that was not the solution that we needed for dealing with armor. Also, it affected our ability to design monsters and, like, to design stuff for the players to fight in events that weren't player versus player. Because typically the way we gave monsters more longevity was giving them armor. Like, Like, because they were meant to be inhuman or whatever, we were able to just write, yeah, it has this many extra hits on their card or on their stat card, and away we went. We just had to represent that they were not human, which we usually did with silly homemade masks. It was great, but this gave us quite a conundrum for that as well, since if we gave them enough armor that they could survive a beating from a player who had the ability to do extra damage, that meant that the players who couldn't do extra damage were in a really bad position because it would take them twice as many hits to fight such a monster. They lost their any chance to shine. But at the same time, oh yes, and here's why you need the gravity suit to move on. Without it, you can't jump high enough. Also, I don't know how to kill these things. Oh, I say as I figure out for the first time in my life how to kill them. I'm just so used to fighting every enemy using beams, and enemies that are just outright immune. What am I doing? I had enough health to tank my way through. Woo. So, yeah, one player suggested that the way we solved that problem would be to just make NPCs immune to this ability, which, you know, would technically solve the problem, but not in a way that satisfied me because, like, within the world of the game, what's the difference between a player character and a non-player character? Nothing. And since this was a role-playing game, that just was not a satisfying solution to me. Oh, a new energy tank. Thank you for this delightful offering, friendly Chozo statue. I love how these ask you to sit and wait for a bit for them to start descending before you can make the jump or you'll bump your head on the ceiling. That is just interesting to me. Eventually, we just cut the ability, nerfed the reduced the maximum amount of armor you were allowed to wear, or you were allowed to benefit from, and changed how armor worked so that you didn't have quite so much of it all over the place because of the aforementioned issue with counting. Counting six different numbers? Yeah, 4 limbs plus head and torso, that's 6 different numbers. Counting 6 different numbers, which even the most experienced players proved unable to do. So I guess today I'm starting Maridia. But yeah, the problem with those of us who are actually passionate about game design, wanting to make the game better, and we still have to convince players, like enough other players, that what we wanted was a good idea and good for them to convince enough of them to vote for it. And even though they would, more than once, we had abilities get voted in that just could not function as written. Because they had an idea, yes, but they had no actual mechanics written into them. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna have a look at these walls with my X-ray visor. Nothing there. Curses. Anyway. Oh no, I missed my opportunity to get... Oh, I'm thankful for the way this is built so I can get back up here. But for a second there I was like, oh no, I missed my opportunity because I went the wrong way. Oh, and here's a save room. Much as I'd love to explore more of Maridia today, it's been my allotted time. I've accomplished my stated goal for the day. Join me next time when I explore more of Maridia. From what I recall, I have a lot of trouble exploring this place, so expect me to loop around several times before I figure out the way out of the loop. See you then.